What's going on, boys? Quinn69 here. How you guys doing today? So as you can see here, today I'm bringing you guys a wizard guide. This one here is a special guide. This is pretty much the most requested guide I've ever had in my entire life. I mean, the whole of today's stream was pretty much just people spamming me. What's your build? Build. Can I look at your skills? Let me take screenshots of your skills. Can you do a guide on this? Is there a guide for this? How do I get this? Okay, this is the guide. Okay, I've been awake for 20 hours, and I know if I start up my stream tomorrow and I haven't got it out yet. So here we go, boys. Listen up. This is it. This is a Torment X speed farm build, as you can see here. I mean, it is ridiculously fast. I'm Paragon 655 with some pretty... I think I'm using a level 0 gem. I'm not even kidding. I will show you the character when I get in. That I'm using a level 0 gem. So as you can see there, the gear requirements and the the Paragon requirements are virtually nothing. This is the second day of the season, so this is season 5 obviously, and this is what I'm running to farm Torment X. It just pretty much wrecks. A guy in my chat called Muzz suggested it, and yeah, we just optimized it a little bit, and now it's just ridiculously powerful. Absolutely destroys anything. I can't even imagine what it's going to do with a fully geared character. This is going to be ridiculous. Okay, so the way it works, the main thing that's going on here that makes it absolutely destroy is the fact that you have Ingiom. So Ingiom is a weapon that reduces all your cooldowns whenever you kill an elite. And you can just, pretty much, what that allows you to do is just spam Explosive Blast. So normally, if you're spamming Explosive Blast, you would just use up all your arcane power, and you would just run out of arcane power and you'd fail. But that's where Diamond Skin, I think it's called Prism, comes in. And that's a special rune, so you can see my Diamond Skin buff there, number 2. It's up the whole time Ingiom's up, and, when Ingiom's up, I can spam Explosive Blast. So whenever I can spam it, I have infinite, arcane power to spend. And this pretty much allows you to make a build where you do a ridiculous amount of damage. Because we are using Tarasha's 6-piece. As you can see there, I've got all the elemental exposures there, so we're getting 4. So if you guys don't know how that works, Tarasha requires you to use 4 different elemental spells. So we're using Fire Explosive Blast, we're using Arcane Teleport, we've got Ice, Frost Nova, and then we've got Lightning Electrocute. And the new patch, all you have to do is initially cast those spells once, and then as long as you just keep alternating 2 abilities, you're good. But in this case here, you can spam, Frost Nova literally doesn't have a cast animation, Explosive Blast doesn't have a cast animation, Teleport is your mobility skill, and the only thing you actually had to consciously think about is to press, you have to just make sure you use Electrocute, every 4 or 5 seconds to proc your, Restraint or Focus. Because we are using that in this build as well. But in the late game, I don't think I'm going to be using that. We'll be going over that in the items section soon. But otherwise, the gameplay is pretty much simple. I mean, you can see you pretty much just run your character towards the monsters, and they kind of just die. This is Torment X. This is single player. I mean, if you guys were watching earlier on my stream, I was doing it in 4-man. It looks pretty much the same. I mean, you can see that everything just dies. And if it doesn't actually die, so I walk past the monster and it doesn't instantly get one-shot, okay, it then burns to death. Because we are also using Firebird set, the 4-piece Firebird set. So, because there's so many Explosive Blasts going off at the same time, because we've amped up Explosive Blast damage so much, you walk past something for more than 500 milliseconds, it's got the 3000% burn until they die debuff on them, and they will just die. You can run like 4 screens away, and eventually they'll just burn to death if you leave them. So you'll just get all that completion just by walking around. But otherwise, that is the gameplay, and now we are going to go over the gear, guys. Hopefully you enjoy it. So we'll go over the gear first, and then we'll do the skills. So this is the baby maker right here. This is the magical wand of woe. This is an extremely rare wand, and there is actually kind of a cheeky little trick you can do to get it. To get this wand right here, I suggest crafting wands, or actually looting wands off the ground, so that's yellow wands, and then just going to your cube, and then just upgrading the wands. And that way you'll get a forced wand legendary, obviously because there's only a limited amount of wands, whereas if you gamble for one-handers, here, there's virtually swords, maces, all this crap that you can gamble, and if you're upgrading ones, you've got a pretty high chance of getting one. I think I just randomly looted mine off the ground, but you can force farm a Wand of Woe if that's what you're looking to do. And so the way this thing works is, okay, increases your Explosive Blast damage by up to 100% additive damage, so doubles your damage output, and then also makes Explosive Blast trigger 3 additional times. So when you press it, it's like pressing it 4 times. It's pretty absurd. It literally doubles your damage and then triples it. And you know, there's separate multipliers, and they just completely. Oh my god! It makes explosive blast into this crazy like ability. So you see when I'm running around the rifts. I mean, you can see it just goes completely crazy. But yeah, you need this weapon to make it work. Obviously, you can play this build without the Wand of Woe, but you cannot use Explosive Blast. You just have to change this to something like, you know, I was playing a similar build to this, and you can just put on, like, Convergence, and then just play with, like, you know, the, what's this bad boy called? The Death Wish. Or if you had, like, the Twister Sword, you could change that to Twister and use the Twister. But the difference between, you know, Convergence and the Wand of Woe setup, it's night and day. This is, I mean, it's completely overpowered. When I went to this, I think my damage maybe quadrupled, if not, like, I went from kind of slowly killing elites to just globaling elites. You know, I can kill a Rift Guardian in less than 2 seconds sometimes with crits. It's really ridiculous. So you really do want the wands, and if you're trying to make this build, I'd suggest upgrading wands. Okay, so then we'll go over the other gear now. So we're using Firebird's boots, Firebird's offhands. I wouldn't get arcane power on crit. It's really not needed. I just have ran out of materials. I cannot actually reroll this thing. You know, the dream one would probably just have fire damage, crit chance, and then explosive blast damage. Honestly, that would be the best offhand you can get, or cooldown reduction, whatever. CDR is really good as well, because that means you have more times to teleport and more explosive blast during Ingiom downtime. So then we're using Tarash's pants. We're using a gold wrap. So gold wrap, if you guys don't know, this is how gold wrap works. When you pick up gold, it gives you armor, and you're picking up gold all the time because we have a Boon of the Hoarder in the gear. This is key. You use this combo. That you will not survive without this combo, because your character is actually very fragile. You can see I have 8 million toughness. That's virtually nothing, right? You'll get global on T10. But if you just walk into the rift, you kill a monster, pick up some gold, you then go into the billions, and you know, it's just ridiculous. You can go. I've had like 40 billion or 40 trillion. I don't even know. The numbers are just absurd. It like goes off this sheet sometimes. Okay, so that is the combo there. The gold wrap with the Boon of the Hoarder. Okay, then we use Talrasha's chest. You want explosive blast on the chest, obviously, because that's explosive blast damage, makes you do a little bit more. That is additive with the, you know, the 1 damage and all your other skill damage. We're then using Talrasha's helmet. These are pretty much the dream rolls. Obviously, you want 6 crit though. Firebird's pinions, so there's Firebird's shoulders. You want explosive blast damage on the shoulder pads. Cooldown reduction. Resource cost reduction is really not needed. Talrasha's gloves. These are pretty much the best rolls you can get. Obviously, it could be ancient. That would be lovely, but that's not the case. We're then using Nemesis braces. That means when we click a pylon, it summons a champion pack. Okay. This is really, really important because you're going to be using Ingiom in the cube, right? So Ingiom, you know, it's the weapon that means you kill an elite pack, you gain the cooldown reduction. This means you get an extra Ingiom proc, which means you increase the uptime of Ingiom, which means you make the whole, you know, when the Ingiom proc is up, that's when you do crazy damage. When it's not up, you do very mediocre damage. Oh, it's not mediocre, it's just like average, you know. I suppose that's what mediocre means, right? Okay, we're then using Tarasha's amulet. This is a horrific one. You really want one that has crit, fire damage, obviously. That would be the dream. We've got focus and restraint here. Probably the dream rolls for focus and restraint would be crit cooldown and crit cooldown. You want as much cooldown as you can get. Pretty much, you want to be minimum 50% cooldown reduction for this build. Minimum. And yeah, as far as gems go, I really would not suggest using Bane of the Powerful. I was just using Bane of the Powerful because that's my, I mean, this is what I was using for the video. This is the level 0 gem. You can see here, it's literally level 0. If you're going to level gems up, okay, so at early game, Taeguk will be the best, right? Early game, this will be really, really powerful, because if you have over 50% cooldown reduction, if you're just spamming Explosive Blast, you will never drop Taeguk ever, because the cooldown will be less than 3 seconds, and you're going to easily maintain Taeguk without even, you just spam this button, and you'll just never drop Taeguk ever, okay? And this is the best gem for doing damage. For pure mobility, so when you're really high Paragon and you've got really good gear, then you want to use Wreath of Lightning, because that's going to give you more mobility and more movement speed. Obviously, Bane of the Trapped is the other gem we're using. That is just a straight up, you know, damage multiplier. The secondary procs the primary, so, you know, the 15-yard aura that slows enemies procs the primary effect, and it just increases all your damage output by 39%. Obviously, mine's only ranked 80, which is pretty low for, you know, this season. And then Boon of the Hoarder, as we've said earlier. A thing worth noting, 100% worth noting, in-game as well, you're not going to need Focus and Restraint. This is not required. I am intending to switch these rings out. So when I'm about Paragon, I'd say Paragon 1000 plus, so that'll be in like a couple days or something. I'm going to be using Avarice Band, so that is the Act 3 ring. Avarice Band, so that means whenever you pick up gold, it increases your pickup radius, which means it increases your globe pickup radius. Which means you pick up globes and you're going to complete the rift faster, and that makes the build a lot better. So definitely, I'd say if you're over Paragon 1000, seek out an Avarice Band immediately, equip that there, and then your other ring doesn't really matter too much. Definitely something like a Soge, so one of these, where did I put my Soge? One of these things right here, so I've already got one prepared. So I'm probably going to be using Avarice Band and a Soge, or you can go like whatever the hell you want. It's up to you, honestly. The secondary ring doesn't matter. But yeah, that's just the thing I wanted to point out for sure. As far as your cubes going, you have Ingium. Obviously, this is what makes the whole build work. So your skill cooldown is reduced by 10 seconds for 15 seconds after killing an elite pack. That means your explosive blast, you know, with a 6-second cooldown, has no cooldown, and you just can spam it. And that's what makes the whole build so powerful, because this thing has a 15-second cooldown. This bad boy has a 6-second cooldown. Okay, if you have 50% CDR in your character, you can easily spam both of these 100% uptime when the in-game proc is up, and that's what makes the build so powerful. That is the secret combination that my boy Muzz figured out, and it's ridiculous. We're then using Wasician Arm Guards. This is just mean whenever you destroy a wreckable object, you gain a short burst of speed. This is up like all the time because, you know, your character is constantly just irradiating explosions. You know, everything is breaking. You can totally, I was experimenting with a few things. I'll quickly go over the ones that I think are the best. So Wasician Arm Guards for the movement speed. Hexing Pants and Mr. Yan, these are very good as well. 20%, you know, 25% generation and damage. It's really cool. It's really badass. But what's worth noting, if I was going to use Hexing Pants, there's actually a better thing you can do. You can actually put Gold Wrap into the cube, and then you can equip a Syndicote. But this is like a backup if you don't have a Syndicote. And then also Gloves of Worship. This is really good if you're, you know, doing really, really fast runs with a 4-man group, and you're going to have constantly having loads of shrines. Because you don't actually have to click the shrine. If someone else clicks it, you get a 10-minute shrine buff. And that means you get, you know, the movement speed shrine, you get the experience shrine, whatever, for 10 minutes. It's pretty nice. You know, you can pretty much use anything in the slot as long as you have a Gold Wrap equipped. And then this ring is locked out. You need a Ring of Royal Grandeur. Obviously, if you're using an Avarice Band on this here, you could then equip a Ring of Royal here and then have whatever you want in there. But yeah, for this particular setup with Focus Restraint, you need a Ring of Royal in order to complete, you know, the 4-piece Firebirds and the 6-piece Taurashas set. Okay, let's go over the skills now. So, as we've been over, we're using Taurasha sets. That's Taurasha 6-piece. To proc this Taurasha 6-piece, you have to use a Fire, you have to use an Arcane, and a Lightning, and a Cold spell, right? So you have to use 4 different elements. So we're using Lightning Blast. This just basically procs the lightning portion of Taurashas. You can use whatever spell you want. I just use this one here because in order to proc Focus and Restraint, you actually have to hit an enemy. So this one here has a very high chance of hitting an enemy because it has insane range and it will just go through anything, you know. So it's really nice, but you can use whatever. I think this is another good one here. Piercing Orb. This is another really powerful one because that's just like a big thing that just goes around and hits everything. Has loads of range. It's pretty much the same thing, right? Doesn't really matter what you use. You're just using it to proc your Taurasha set. Not for the Meteor. That's for the 500% damage buff. Every time you cast, you know, a different elemental attack, you get 500% damage, 500% damage, 500% damage, and 500% damage. Now we've got the full buff. Okay, so now we're using Storm Armor Scramble. Obviously, because we're using the Gold Wrap Boon of the Hoarder combo, you don't need survivability, so you can just use this for 25% movement speed. You can use whatever other Storm Armor. If you think you've got a better idea, you can totally do that. We're just using the 25% movement speed. Explosive Blast Chain Reaction. This is the really ridiculously OP rune. You know, it does 1.5k plus damage, and it just means you constantly irradiate just explosions. So anything you touch is just like, and because you're, doing so many goddamn explosions, and they're multiplied by, the 1 explosive blast damage, the second you get in range of anything while Ingiom's up, you're actually gonna hit them so many times that you're gonna instantly proc the 4-set of your Firebirds. When I say proc the 4-set, I mean you're gonna get a 3000% burn until they die debuff on the enemies, which means you can just run along happily knowing, okay, I've ran past that monster, say he's at 20%, you can just leave it, because you know he's going to burn to death. You can just rock off. Just be sure to check your map every now and then to make sure, because sometimes you'll leave something and then a legendary will drop off like a dude, so just make sure you check that as you're going. We're then using Diamond Skin Prism, so this is the Diamond Skin rune that makes the whole thing possible. While this is up, it reduces the arcane power cost of all skills by 9, and that means you can actually spam Explosive Blast. The build does not work without this. We're not using it for the arcane, you're not using it for the Diamond Skin. I mean, it's pretty nice, man. You get to spam 40% life, of damage reduction, but we're actually just using it for the arcane power cost reduction. You're then using Teleport Calamity. It's not for the damage, it's purely there because you can see there, cast a short range wave of force upon arrival, dealing 175% damage. That's an arcane spell. That procs your Tail Rushes. That's what that's there for. Otherwise, if we didn't have to use this, we'd use Wormhole, but we can't, unfortunately. This is there to proc Tail Rushes. And then we're using Frost Nova, Frozen Mist. This is the only rune of Frost Nova that actually procs, because I would not use Frozen Mist if I didn't have to. I would use something like Deep Freeze for extra crit, so it would make my, Explosive Blast even more ridiculous. But unfortunately, you are actually locked into Frozen Mist, as Frozen Mist makes your Frost Nova deal damage, and that's the only way you can make Frost Nova proc Tail Rushes. We're then using Elemental Explosion. It's perfectly synergetic with Tail Rushes because you're just casting 4 different spells. So Elemental Explosion is up the whole time. Audacity, 30% damage multiplier to enemies within 15 yards. Okay, I think the damage radius of this, is of 12 yards. So you can't really damage anything that's not... Okay, you can because you've got your Firebirds dot. But the majority of your damage is coming from the Explosive Blast. And this is multiplying that GGWP. Illusionist. When you use Mirror Image, Slow Time, or Teleport, your movement speed is increased. So 30% movement speed for 3 seconds. You're pretty much using your Teleport more than, every 3 seconds when your Ingiom's procced. So you get 30% movement speed. 20% CDR. That means you can spam Teleport faster while your Ingiom's procced up. So you might be wondering why we're stacking so much CDR. The reason why you're stacking so much CDR is so, when you're out of Ingiom proc, so when your Ingiom is not, so you haven't killed an elite, that means you can spam Explosive Blast and you can actually kill elites in the first place, but it also increases your movement speed while your Ingiom's procced. Because you'll notice that the cooldown is still there from your Teleport, so you just want to get like a little bit more CDR. Like I think 50% is the threshold where it's really, really quick, and that's when you can start teleporting like hard out. And also you need 50% cooldown reduction in order to maintain a Taegook, so that's why I say 50% is a really good, rule to go off. As far as Paragons go, cap your move speed to 25, so I've got 12 on my boots, 13 on my Paragons, then go full intellect. Then you want to go full, I just went crit cooldown, then straight to attack speed. As far as defense goes, Aura Resist, Armor, Life Percent, then Life Regen. Utility, Resource Cost Reduction, then Area Damage. Unfortunately, so Area Damage isn't bugged, this isn't a bug, this is actually intended, because Wand of Woe, the 3 additional blasts are technically item damage. Okay, that means that it doesn't proc area damage because they're item damage. The one that you cast, so 1 out of the 4, explosive blasts does proc area damage, but the other 3 don't. So the majority of damage does not proc, area damage. Unfortunately, this is not a very strong stat, so you don't want to look for area damage on your gear, and it's not really that high of a priority, but it does give you a small damage boost, so it is quite nice. So resource cost reduction, area damage, life on it, then gold fine. But otherwise, that is it. Hopefully I've covered everything. As I said, I've been awake for like, oh my god, is it like almost 21 hours now? I feel I need to go to sleep. Hopefully you enjoyed the guide, and hopefully we didn't miss anything. But until next time, guys, peace the hell out, and have a good day, boys.